Some looked tired, some looked happy, some had no idea what was coming. These final photos might seem simple at first, but there's more going on than you think. James Dean. The 30th of September, 1955. James Dean pulled into a mobile gas station in Sherman Oaks. He was driving his brand-new silver Porsche 550 Spyder. A friend snapped a quick photo. Dean leaning on the car wearing sunglasses, half smiling. That photo turned out to be his last. He had plans to race in Salinas that weekend. He was just 24. Around 5:45 p.m., a college student driving a Ford Tudor made a left turn at the junction of routes 466 and 41. Dean's Porsche was going fast. They hit head-on. Dean was crushed inside the car. He was pronounced dead shortly after. His passenger survived with a broken jaw and leg. That last photo was later published in magazines across the country. It showed him relaxed and proud. No idea what was coming. The car had "Little Bastard" painted on it. People still talk about that. Marilyn Monroe. The 13th of July, 1962. Marilyn Monroe posed on Santa Monica Beach for her last photo session with photographer George Barris. She wrapped herself in a green towel, sweater, toes in the sand, laughing naturally between shots. It was casual, warm, and close to home. They were planning a magazine feature. Marilyn had just turned 36. She was hopeful, talking about new projects and starting fresh. That shoot those soft, beachy photos turned out to be her last. On the 5th of August, she was found dead in her Brentwood home. Official cause: overdose. The world didn't see it coming. Or maybe it did and just didn't want to believe it. The photos were released after her death. They're still everywhere. Book covers, posters, auctions. In them, she looks open, almost weightless. But friends later said she seemed tired that week, quiet, a little off. Bruce Lee. The 20th of July, 1973. Bruce Lee was at Golden Harvest Studios in Hong Kong working on voice dubbing for Enter the Dragon. He looked focused, calm. There's a photo from that day of him waiting between takes. It would be his last known image alive. Later that afternoon, he went to actress Betty Ting Pei's apartment to rest. He complained of a headache. She gave him a painkiller. Hours passed. He never woke up. Doctors said it was brain swelling, cerebral edema. He was only 32. The image from the studio session shows none of that. He looked sharp, almost glowing. Enter the Dragon would come out a month later and make him a global icon. John Belushi. The 4th of March, 1982. A fan saw John Belushi leaving the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles. They asked for a photo. He agreed, gave a half smile, and stood still just long enough. He looked worn out but polite. That snapshot turned out to be the last. Belushi was staying in Bungalow 3. Later that night, he was found dead on the couch. Drugs were involved. He was 33. The photo was passed around quickly after. Some said he looked sick. Others thought he was just tired. His friends had been worried. He'd missed meetings, canceled shows. But he was John, wild, magnetic, unpredictable. The picture doesn't show a celebrity meltdown. It shows a man holding it together in front of a stranger. That's what makes it stick. Not because of the chaos after, but because it looked so normal. He didn't know it was goodbye. And neither did anyone else standing outside that hotel. River Phoenix. The 30th of October, 1993. River Phoenix was standing outside the Viper Room on Sunset Boulevard. His younger brother Joaquin was nearby. So was his girlfriend. A fan snapped a quick photo. River leaning against the wall, looking pale and dazed. His hands were in his pockets. That was the last image ever taken of him alive. Inside, his band had just played. He wasn't scheduled to perform, but had shown up anyway. He'd mixed multiple substances that night. Not everyone knew. Just before 1 a.m., he collapsed on the sidewalk. Joaquin called 911. It was too late. He was 23. That photo was printed in tabloids, passed around like a warning. But it's quiet. No flashing lights, no panic, just a guy outside a club caught in the wrong moment. Fans still visit the spot where he fell. That sidewalk has become part of the story. Chris Farley. The 16th of December, 1997. Chris Farley was at a party in Chicago. Someone had a disposable camera. They asked for a photo. He said yes. He was sweaty but still smiling. That image, now widely circulated online, is the last known photo of him alive. He had been struggling. His weight was up. His energy was down. Friends were worried. He checked in and out of rehab more than a dozen times. But Chris always bounced back, or so people thought. 2 days later, he was found in his apartment. The medical report listed an overdose. He was 33. The photo from that night feels different now. It shows more than a smile. He looked tired in a way that's hard to fake, and even harder to spot until it's too late. Heath Ledger. January 2008. Heath Ledger was on set in London filming The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. A behind-the-scenes shot shows him in costume, smiling between takes. It's quiet and casual. No spotlight. That was the last photo taken before everything unraveled. He flew back to New York days later. On the 22nd of January, he missed appointments. His housekeeper found him unresponsive in his Soho apartment. Prescription meds were later found nearby. He was 28. The photo came out after his death. Fans studied it for signs. He looked happy, tired, calm, all at once. He had been struggling to sleep. Playing the Joker had taken a toll. But he wasn't the type to show it on set. Paul Walker. The 30th of November, 2013. Paul Walker was leaving a charity event in Santa Clarita. He climbed into a red Porsche Carrera GT with his friend Roger Rodas. A fan standing nearby snapped a photo as the car pulled away. Paul was in the passenger seat. That was the last time he was seen alive. Minutes later, the car lost control and crashed into a light pole. It burst into flames. Both men died at the scene. He was 40. The photo circulated fast. Not for shock value, but because it captured a calm moment right before everything changed. No stunt, no film set, just a real ride on a real day. He'd spent the afternoon raising money for typhoon victims in the Philippines. That's why he was even at the event, helping people. Robin Williams. August 2014. Robin Williams stopped by an art gallery in Marin County. A fan snapped a candid photo. Williams is standing quietly, clothed in dark tones, smiling gently as he talks with guests. That's the last known photo of him alive. He had been dealing with worsening symptoms, confusion, insomnia, panic attacks. The diagnosis came later, Lewy body dementia. At the time, no one, not even Robin, fully understood what was happening. A few days later, he was found in his home. The news stunned everyone. It didn't seem real. The gallery photo shows none of the pain. He's wearing cargo shorts, a dark shirt, and that familiar, gentle smile. People said he seemed a little withdrawn, but still polite. Still him. It's not a celebrity moment. It's a regular afternoon. That's what makes it harder to process. The man who made millions laugh was right there, walking through town, holding something he didn't let anyone else see. Betty White. The 20th of December, 2021. Betty White's assistant took a photo of her sitting by the window at home. She was wearing a pastel green sweater, smiling softly. The plan was to post it for her upcoming 100th birthday. Instead, it became her last public photo. She passed away 11 days later, peacefully in her sleep. The photo wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. At 99, Betty still had that calm, playful energy people loved her for. The lighting was natural. Her hair was done. Her smile was warm but subtle, like she knew something you didn't. Fans flooded social media with it when the news broke. It didn't look like an ending. That's what made it powerful. No big farewell. Just Betty being Betty kind, present, and quietly ready. She didn't get to hit 100, but that photo felt like the milestone. It captured exactly who she was, right up to the end. Philip Seymour Hoffman. The 1st of February, 2014. Philip Seymour Hoffman was photographed walking home in Manhattan. He was carrying grocery bags, head down, layered in a winter coat. The image is grainy but clear. He looked tired. That was the last photo ever taken of him. The next morning, he missed a planned visit with his kids. His partner grew concerned. He was later found in his apartment. The cause of death was a drug overdose. He was 46. Friends said he'd been trying to stay clean. He had recently relapsed after years of sobriety, but he kept working, kept showing up. That day, he was just out running errands. And no one knew it was the last time anyone would see him. Leonard Nimoy. The 19th of February, 2015. Leonard Nimoy was wheeled out of UCLA Medical Center, visibly frail, seated in a wheelchair with an oxygen tube. A candid image from that moment captures him raising a gentle wave. That image became his final goodbye. He had been battling chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a result, he said, of years of smoking even though he quit decades earlier. He was 83. His final tweet just days before read, "A life is like a garden. Perfect moments can be had, but not preserved." It was quiet, poetic. People didn't realize how close he was to the end. The photo was shared more widely after his death. It didn't show Mr. Spock or the icon. It showed the man, frail, gracious, still acknowledging fans even when he could barely breathe. Alan Rickman. The 7th of December, 2015. Alan Rickman attended the press night for Hangman at Wyndham's Theatre in London. A paparazzi photo caught him stepping out afterward. He wore a black coat and scarf, his hands tucked in his pockets. He looked thin but calm. That would be his final public photo. Weeks later, he quietly passed from cancer. He hadn't told the public he was ill. Only close friends and family knew. He was 69. The photo didn't stand out at the time, but after his death, the image resurfaced everywhere. People looked closer. You could see the weight loss, a kind of stillness in his eyes. There was no red carpet, no forced smile, just a quiet exit into the night. That photo doesn't tell the full story, but it says enough. He kept his illness private. He left without spectacle. And somehow, even in that last picture, he still looked in control. Cloris Leachman. The 11th of November, 2016. Cloris Leachman attended the Comedian premiere at AFI Fest in Hollywood. A paparazzi shot captures her quietly smiling, giving a soft wave to photographers. She looked vibrant and fully present. This is her final known public image alive. She passed away on the 27th of January, 2021, at age 94. Leachman had stayed active well into her 92nd doing voice work, guest spots, indie films. Her humor never dulled. Friends said she was sharp to the end. The red carpet photos didn't draw much attention at the time. She wasn't there for press, just to support a film. But when she passed, those photos reappeared. People noticed how bright she still looked. Still camera-ready, still fully herself. There was no farewell tour. She went out quietly, without ceremony. That last photo didn't capture the end of a career. It showed a performer who never stopped showing up. Even at 94, she made it look effortless. Carrie Fisher. The 23rd of December, 2016. In London, a fan snapped a candid photo of Carrie Fisher with her dog Gary just one day before she would board a flight back to Los Angeles. She wore sunglasses, held her leash, and paused in the terminal, smiling and appearing engaged with the fan. That was the last known photo of her alive. During the flight, she went into cardiac arrest. She never regained consciousness. She was 60. Carrie had just wrapped a book tour and appeared at fan events overseas. People noticed she seemed exhausted, maybe overworked, but no one expected what came next. Fans saw it as pure Carrie, unfiltered, sharp, still showing up for people. Even when she didn't feel 100%, she didn't shut down. Chadwick Boseman. August 2020, Chadwick Boseman was photographed outside a medical building in Santa Monica. A fan took the photo. He was wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, and a face mask. His frame looked alarmingly thin. That would be his final public image. He had been battling colon cancer privately for 4 years. Only a few people knew. Just weeks later, he died at home, surrounded by family. He was 43. The photo confused fans at first. Rumors started. Some thought he was preparing for a role. Others thought he was sick. He never confirmed either. He stayed silent. After the news broke, that image resurfaced everywhere. What stood out wasn't just the weight loss, it was the dignity. No one would have known he was suffering unless they looked closely. He kept going. He filmed multiple movies during treatment. He didn't want pity. That final photo didn't show weakness, it showed focus. And now, it's the one people can't forget. Angela Lansbury. The 16th of October, 2021, Angela Lansbury turned 96. Her family took a photo to mark the day, wearing a soft sweater, smiling gently. It wasn't meant for the public, but after she passed, it was shared on fan pages. That photo became her last. She died nearly a year later, on the 11th of October, 2022, peacefully in her sleep. Angela had already stepped out of the spotlight. That birthday photo didn't go viral at first. It wasn't polished or posed, but it felt real. She looked exactly how fans wanted to remember her, graceful, calm, still warm behind the eyes. There wasn't a grand farewell, no dramatic last performance, just a quiet home photo that ended up doing more than any headline. It captured the part of her career people forget the part that wasn't on camera. Bob Saget. The 8th of January, 2022. After a stand-up set in Orlando, Bob Saget posed for a selfie with the hotel valet outside the Ritz-Carlton. He smiled wide, arm around the young employee. He looked relaxed. That photo was taken just after midnight, his last known image. The next day, he missed checkout. Staff found him in bed. The cause was a head injury from what appeared to be a fall. He was 65. Saget had posted on Instagram just hours earlier, thanking the crowd for a great show. He said he was loving every minute. No signs of anything wrong. The selfie with the valet was posted after his death. It spread fast, not for shock, but because it felt like Bob. Friendly, approachable, happy to make someone's night. There were no signs of pain in the photo, no clues. Just a moment with a stranger, one of countless small acts he did without thinking twice. That's the version fans chose to remember. Ray Liotta. May 2022. Ray Liotta was seen enjoying quiet, happy moments in the Dominican Republic in his final months. A New York Post report shared behind-the-scenes photos and social media snapshots showing him smiling, holding hands with his fiancée, and sharing casual time with cast and crew. He looked peaceful and engaged, clearly present on set. He died in his sleep on May 26, 2022, at the age of 67, while filming Dangerous Waters, according to local authorities. The official report listed respiratory failure, pulmonary edema, and heart failure as causes, with atherosclerosis cited as an underlying condition. The images published that day showed no signs of ill health or distress. Weeks of teaser clips, promotional stills, and set stories followed after his death, each reinforcing a memory of normalcy, not a warning. He died with work unfinished, but life fully lived. That's what makes these last photos stick. Instead of a breakup, they show a man surrounded by love and creative energy right before it ended. Kirstie Alley. April 2022. Kirstie Alley appeared on The Masked Singer as Baby Mammoth. It was her last television performance. She didn't reveal any health issues at the time. No one watching knew she was already fighting colon cancer. She died later that year, on the 5th of December. She was 71. After her passing, fans went back to those episodes. She'd seemed upbeat, her voice was strong, but some noticed she moved more slowly than usual. Promotional photos from the show started circulating again. In one, she's smiling in the oversized costume backstage. It wasn't glamorous, but it was full of personality, exactly what people loved about her. Her family confirmed she'd been diagnosed not long before her death. She kept it private. That Masked Singer photo didn't look like an ending. It looked like someone still having fun, still performing. And that's how she chose to go out, doing something silly, on her own terms. Lisa Marie Presley. The 10th of January, 2023, Lisa Marie Presley walked the red carpet at the Golden Globes. She was there to support the Elvis biopic. Photographers snapped dozens of shots, one of her holding onto a handler's arm, steadying herself. That was her last public appearance. 2 days later, she suffered cardiac arrest at home. She was rushed to the hospital but never recovered. She was 54. In the photos, she looked emotional. Her speech was slow during interviews. Viewers noticed something was off, but no one expected what came next. After her death, her daughter Riley Keough shared a private picture from just days earlier. A quiet dinner photo, mother and daughter sitting side by side. That image wasn't staged, it was just them. Both images tell different stories. One is the public goodbye, the other is the personal one. Together, they gave people the ending they didn't see coming. Treat Williams. The 12th of June, 2023. Treat Williams posted a photo on Instagram showing his Vermont property, fresh hay, blue sky, his tractor in the corner. The caption said, "Hay day." He looked proud. That was the last photo he ever posted. Later that day, while riding his motorcycle, he collided with an SUV. He was taken to the hospital but didn't survive. He was 71. He had been a steady presence in film and television for decades, never chasing headlines, just doing the work. His last post wasn't about a premiere or a shoot. It was about his land, his routine, his joy. Fans returned to the photo after the news broke. It felt simple, but perfect. He died the same day he shared that image. That's what stuck with people. Matthew Perry. The 23rd of October, 2023. Matthew Perry shared a photo on Instagram. He was in a jacuzzi, headphones on, relaxed in the water. The caption read, "Oh, so warm water swirling around makes you feel good. I'm Mattman." It was playful, strange, and pure Perry. 5 days later, on the 28th of October, he was found dead in a hot tub at his Los Angeles home. He was 54. The image became instantly iconic, shared across every platform. It wasn't flashy, just dark water, soft light, and silence. No one knew what he was really going through. He had recently talked about recovery, even hinted at a return to acting, but friends said he was isolating again. The post didn't seem like a farewell until it did. Fans debated the meaning. Some saw peace, others saw loneliness, but everyone agreed. It was haunting. And now it's the image that won't fade. Matthew Perry, floating in silence, signing off as Mattman.
A stack of forgotten photographs, a Hollywood icon, and a connection no one saw coming. What if the key to Judy Holliday's rise to fame wasn't just talent, but something hidden in these images? Could this explain what really happened to her career? From aspiring writer to performer. She didn't plan on becoming a Hollywood star. Born Judith Tuvim in 1921, she wanted to be a writer. She loved books, ideas, and clever wordplay. But performing, that wasn't the goal. At least, not at first. After high school, she took a job as a switchboard operator at the Mercury Theater, the company co-founded by Orson Welles. It wasn't glamorous, but it put her close to the theater world. Before long, she found her own stage. In 1938, Holliday teamed up with Betty Comden and Adolph Green to form The Reviewers, a musical comedy group. Their sharp, witty acts made fun of politics, pop culture, and the entertainment industry itself. They became a hit at the Village Vanguard, a famous nightclub in New York. Sometimes their friend Leonard Bernstein, who would later compose West Side Story, played piano for their sets. Holliday had a special spark. She played the dumb blonde role, but her delivery was so smart that audiences caught on. She wasn't just funny, she was brilliant. Their success grew, and in 1944, Hollywood called. 20th Century Fox invited the Reviewers to appear in Greenwich Village, a Technicolor musical. It seemed like their big break. They packed up and moved to Los Angeles, ready for their moment on the silver screen. Then, nothing. Their scene got cut from the final film. No one in Hollywood seemed interested. The industry didn't know what to do with a comedy trio that didn't fit the usual mold. So they went back to New York. For Comden and Green, that was fine. They went on to write legendary musicals like Singin' in the Rain. But for Holliday, something had changed. The failure in Hollywood didn't discourage her. It made her pivot. She started taking solo theater roles, proving she was more than just a sketch comedian. Broadway brilliance and industry interest. By the mid-1940s, Judy Holliday was done playing small roles. She wanted something bigger, something that proved she wasn't just a side act. In 1946, she got it. She was cast in a Broadway play called Born Yesterday, and everything changed. At first, producers weren't sold on her. The play's director, Garson Kanin, had to fight to cast her as Billy Dawn, a ditzy showgirl caught in a web of political corruption. But once Holliday stepped on stage, any doubts disappeared. She stole every scene with her razor-sharp comedic timing and made Billy more than just a joke. She made her real, charming, and surprisingly clever. Audiences loved it. Born Yesterday was a hit, running for over 3 years. Critics raved about Holliday, calling her the best new comedic actress on Broadway. But Hollywood wasn't convinced. Columbia Pictures owned the rights to the film adaptation of Born Yesterday, but studio head Harry Cohn didn't think Holliday had star power. He wanted someone bigger, someone bankable, maybe Rita Hayworth or Lana Turner. To him, Holliday was just a stage actress. Meanwhile, she kept working. She landed small film roles, including a part in Winged Victory, 1944, and Something for the Boys, 1944. Nothing major, but enough to keep her in the game. Then, in 1949, she got an unexpected chance to prove herself. Director George Cukor cast her in Adam's Rib, starring Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy. It was a supporting role. She played a woman on trial for shooting her cheating husband, but she made the most of it. Her performance was scene-stealing, both funny and emotional. Hepburn took notice. She knew Columbia Pictures was still unsure about giving Holliday the lead in Born Yesterday, so she hatched a plan. She and Spencer Tracy invited studio executives to a private screening of Adam's Rib, making sure they saw how good Holliday was. The gamble worked. By the time Born Yesterday was set to start filming, Columbia had no choice but to give her the role. She had proven herself. Hollywood was finally paying attention. But what no one knew, what no one even suspected, was that something or someone might have been helping her career in ways beyond talent alone. The power behind her performance. She had spent years proving herself. Now she had the role that could make her a star, Billy Dawn in Born Yesterday. But winning the part was just the beginning. The real test was making Hollywood believe she was more than a stage actress. Filming began in 1950, directed by George Cukor. Holliday was up against big expectations. Harry Cohn, the head of Columbia Pictures, had fought against casting her, and the studio wasn't convinced she could carry a movie. But from the moment she appeared on screen, she proved them wrong. Her performance was electric. She played Billy as funny, naive, and sharp all at once. Audiences didn't just laugh at her, they rooted for her. The film became a hit, and suddenly Judy Holliday was everywhere. Then came the Oscars. Holliday was nominated for Best Actress, going up against Hollywood royalty, Bette Davis in All About Eve and Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard. Both were powerhouse performances, and almost everyone assumed one of them would win. But when the envelope was opened, it was Judy Holliday's name that was called. Her win shocked Hollywood, a newcomer beating two of the most respected actresses in the industry. Some thought it was a fluke, a moment of surprise voting. But others speculated, was there something happening behind the scenes? In the years that followed, whispers spread. Some believed that a powerful, unseen figure had helped push Holliday's career forward. Certain industry insiders had gone out of their way to support her, and her sudden rise felt, to some, like more than just luck. Theories ranged from influential producers to political figures who wanted Holliday in the spotlight. But there was no proof, at least not yet. McCarthyism and the unusual intervention. The Red Scare was in full swing, and the government was hunting for supposed communist influence in the entertainment industry. In 1950, Holliday's name appeared in Red Channels, a report that accused actors, writers, and directors of communist ties. The accusations weren't based on hard evidence, just vague associations. But that didn't matter. Being listed could end a career. Studios blacklisted dozens of stars, and many never recovered. In 1952, Holliday was called to testify before the Senate Internal Security Subcommittee. It was a dangerous moment. Other actors had seen their reputations ruined just by appearing before the committee. If she answered wrong, she could lose everything. But something unusual happened. Unlike other stars who were grilled harshly, Holliday's questioning was light. She played into her public image, using her dumb blonde persona to make herself seem harmless. She answered vaguely, gave nervous laughs, and avoided strong political statements. It worked. The committee didn't push further, and she walked away without serious consequences. Unlike many others in Hollywood, she wasn't blacklisted. Many assumed she had simply outwitted them. But behind closed doors, there were rumors that someone had intervened on her behalf. Some believed a high-ranking figure had quietly worked to protect her, ensuring she wasn't targeted like other stars. But who? And why? No clear answers surfaced, but one thing was certain. Judy Holliday had escaped a scandal that had ruined careers overnight. Still, the damage wasn't entirely avoided. Studios grew wary. She lost film opportunities. And while she was still working, something had changed. The industry's enthusiasm for her had cooled. The hidden meetings. By 1953, Judy Holliday's career had slowed, but she was still a respected name in Hollywood. She had survived the Red Scare with her reputation intact, something many of her peers couldn't say. But then, something unusual is said to surface. Photographs that hinted at a connection no one had ever discussed. Rumors said these weren't the typical publicity shots or stage studio photos. They were private, candidate, and they showed Holliday in close settings with a man who held significant power in Hollywood. The images captured private meetings, behind closed doors at studio lots, quiet conversations at upscale restaurants, and interactions that didn't match her known public relationships. The photos didn't make headlines at the time. They weren't widely published. But within certain circles, they raised questions. Holliday had fought to prove herself in the industry, but had she also been quietly supported in ways the public never knew? What made it stranger was that this mystery figure wasn't just another Hollywood producer or executive. He had connections that went beyond film. Political ties, financial power, and influence that extended into government affairs. Why was Holliday meeting with him? And why were these photos never discussed? Some historians believe this connection may have played a role in both her rise and her unexpected survival during the McCarthy-era interrogations. If someone had been quietly pulling strings for her, protecting her from being blacklisted, it could explain how she walked away from what had destroyed others. But if that was true, why had her career suddenly slowed? Had her connection faded? Had she lost favor with the very forces that helped her succeed? The photos remain an unanswered mystery. The people in power at the time never spoke of them, and Holliday herself never mentioned these meetings. But their existence suggests that there was more to her Hollywood story than talent alone. Her name was still known, but her star wasn't rising anymore. And soon, the industry that once celebrated her would start turning its back. A career that suddenly stalled. She had an Oscar, a proven track record, and a reputation as one of the smartest comedic actresses in Hollywood. But by 1955, something had changed. The roles weren't coming as quickly. The excitement around her name had faded. For an actress who had once been in high demand, the slowdown was strange. Holliday wasn't struggling publicly, she still had work, but compared to the momentum she had in the early 50s, her career was losing steam. Some blamed the political fallout from her McCarthy-era accusations. Even though she hadn't been blacklisted, the shadow of red channels still lingered. Studios were wary of any controversy, and her name had been tied to it, even if only briefly. Others pointed to shifting industry trends. Hollywood's leading women were changing. Marilyn Monroe, Audrey Hepburn, and Grace Kelly were redefining what it meant to be a star. Holliday's signature sharp-witted comedy didn't fit into the new era of glamour and sophistication. But another theory emerged. Had she lost favor with the same power players who had once helped her? The mysterious meetings captured in rare photographs suggested that someone influential had been involved in her career. If that support had been quietly withdrawn, it could explain why the phone wasn't ringing like it used to. Her film output reflected this decline. After Fifth, 1954, a light comedy with Jack Lemmon, she had only one film in 1956, The Solid Gold Cadillac. The film performed well, but it wasn't the kind of blockbuster that revived careers. Something had shifted. Holliday still had the talent, the audience, and the industry respect. But Hollywood had a way of deciding who stayed on top, and right now, it wasn't choosing her. Return to Broadway. With Hollywood growing cold, Judy Holliday did what she did best. She went back to the stage. Broadway had always been her home, and in 1956, she returned with Bells Are Ringing, a musical written by her longtime friends Betty Comden and Adolph Green. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a triumph. Holliday played Ella Peterson, a telephone operator who gets too involved in her clients' lives. The show was a hit, running for nearly 1,000 performances. Critics praised her comedic timing and charm. She even won a Tony Award for Best Actress in a Musical. It was proof that she still had what it took. But strangely, despite the success, Hollywood still wasn't calling. That changed in 1960 when Columbia Pictures decided to adapt Bells Are Ringing into a movie. Holliday reprised her role, starring alongside Dean Martin. But something was different. The film had all the right ingredients: beloved source material, a major studio, and a popular co-star, yet the enthusiasm behind it felt forced. Columbia promoted the film, but not with the same energy they once had for Holliday. By the time it was released, audiences had moved on. It wasn't a flop, but it wasn't the blockbuster she needed to reignite her career. Even stranger, more rare photos surfaced from this period, again showing Holliday in private meetings with an unnamed industry figure. If someone had quietly helped her in the past, had they returned for one last attempt to boost her career? Or was this the last sign of a connection that had once shaped her rise? After Bells Are Ringing, she didn't sign on for another film. Whether by choice or by Hollywood's quiet rejection, her time on the big screen was over. Broadway had saved her career once, but now something else was threatening to take it away, something she couldn't outwit or outmaneuver. Behind the laughter and applause, Holliday was fighting a battle that no unseen influence could protect her from. A name fading from Hollywood. After Bells Are Ringing, 1960, she didn't make another movie. Studios weren't offering roles, and she wasn't chasing them. Whether it was her decision or Hollywood's, one thing was clear. Her time as a leading lady had passed. She still had Broadway, but even that was slipping away. In 1961, she was set to star in Hot Spot, a new musical. But behind the scenes, she wasn't the same. She was exhausted, struggling with memory issues and having trouble keeping up with rehearsals. Something was wrong. Doctors diagnosed her with breast cancer. She kept it private, only telling those closest to her. She underwent surgery and treatment, but by 1963, the cancer had returned. The once unstoppable performer was now facing a battle she couldn't outthink or outmaneuver. Her health declined quickly, and so did her public presence. She stopped taking roles, stopped appearing at events, and before long, the industry had moved on. The woman who had once been everywhere, on Broadway, in Hollywood, on magazine covers, was now slipping out of the public eye. But her name didn't disappear completely. Private collectors and film historians had started to take interest in her career. Those rare, unpublished photographs of her with powerful figures in private meetings began circulating again. People were asking questions. Had her rise been helped in ways no one knew? Had her sudden career stall been connected to losing that hidden support? No one had answers. The photos remained a mystery, and by the mid-1960s, so did Judy Holliday. She spent her final years in New York surrounded by close friends, but away from the industry she had once dominated. There were no comebacks, no last attempts to reclaim the spotlight. The woman who had outsmarted Hollywood, survived McCarthyism, and won an Oscar had quietly faded into the background. But the story wasn't over, not yet, because decades later, those forgotten photographs would force people to take a second look at the life of Judy Holliday. The photos and the private collectors. By the 1970s, whispers emerged that film historians and collectors started digging deeper into Hollywood's past, uncovering details that had been overlooked. Among them were rare photographs, images of Holliday in settings that didn't match her public narrative. For years, these photos remained hidden, circulating quietly among collectors. Some believed they held clues to how Holliday had survived the McCarthy era without being blacklisted. Others speculated they explained why her career had stalled so suddenly after Born Yesterday. As Hollywood nostalgia grew in the 80s and 90s, more biographies and documentaries revisited the careers of forgotten stars. Holliday's name surfaced, but the focus was always on her talent, her intelligence, and her struggles, not the mystery behind her rise and fall. The photos remained a footnote, something whispered about but never fully explored and exposed. Then a new generation of researchers began connecting the dots. They looked at the timeline, the moments when her career skyrocketed, the sudden turns, the missed opportunities. They compared the rare images to known industry records and realized something didn't add up. Was Judy Holliday's success orchestrated by someone powerful? And if so, why had she been cast aside just as quickly? By the 1990s, these questions had grown louder. More people were asking why an Oscar-winning actress had simply disappeared from Hollywood at her peak, but the answers remained elusive. Rewriting the Judy Holliday story. Biographies, documentaries, and film retrospectives looked deeper into the lives of forgotten stars. Judy Holliday was one of them. For decades, her story had followed a simple arc. Brilliant but underappreciated actress, taken too soon. But then, those rare photographs resurfaced. Historians and researchers took another look, questioning long-held assumptions about her career. Who was the powerful figure seen in private meetings with her? Was he responsible for her sudden rise, and did his influence vanish when she needed it most? Newspaper archives, studio records, and personal letters were reanalyzed. While no definitive proof surfaced, the patterns were hard to ignore. Holliday's career followed an unusual trajectory: rapid success, survival in a blacklist era, then an unexplained decline. The missing puzzle piece might have been hidden in those photos all along. Today, Judy Holliday is remembered for her sharp wit, her comedic brilliance, and her undeniable talent. But the mystery behind her Hollywood journey remains. The rare images that once sat unnoticed now spark debates about who truly holds power in the film industry and how careers can be quietly shaped behind the scenes. Decades later, the questions still linger. The photos, if real, still whisper a hidden truth, and the industry that shaped her still thrives on secrets it may never tell. They may look like $1 million on screen, but off-camera, these leading men are known for their less-than-appealing personal hygiene. In the 1920s and 1930s, actors like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton dazzled audiences with their slapstick routines and daring stunts. But hygiene? Not so much. Sets were basic, outdoor locations lacked running water, and showers were rare luxuries. After a long day of physical comedy, chances are the stars didn't smell as charming as they appeared. Still, audiences adored them, and hygiene, or the lack thereof, wasn't part of the discussion. By the 1940s, the studio system had taken over, and stars were carefully styled to fit a flawless image. Publicists worked hard to craft personas for leading men and starlets. However, not everyone embraced the polished expectations. Some actors leaned into a rugged, carefree image. Even into the golden age of Hollywood, whispers about the Hollywood stench circulated among crew members. Makeup artists and wardrobe teams occasionally struggled to manage stars who didn't prioritize personal care. For some, it was part of their charm, a rejection of the polished, controlled image studios wanted to project. For others, it was simply a byproduct of long hours and intense filming schedules. Marlon Brando is a name that stands tall in Hollywood history. Known for redefining acting with his groundbreaking performances, he brought a gritty realism to classics like A Streetcar Named Desire and The Godfather. But Brando wasn't just known for his craft. His hygiene, or lack of it, became an infamous part of his legend. For him, acting wasn't about pretending, it was about becoming. And if his characters didn't care about grooming, neither did he. Staying in character often meant personal hygiene took a back seat. Reports from co-stars and crew paint a vivid picture. Brando's body odor was so overpowering, people avoided lingering near him for too long. On the set of The Godfather, Brando's habits didn't go unnoticed. Crew members reportedly dreaded stepping into his trailer, where the smell was, let's say, unforgettable. Some accounts claim the stench was so intense it lingered long after he left the room. Brando, however, wasn't bothered. He openly admitted that he didn't see the point of regular showers and often wore the same clothes for days. To him, all that mattered was the art. Despite the discomfort he caused on set, Brando's talent was undeniable. His ability to inhabit a character was unmatched, and his lack of concern for appearances only added to his rebellious mystique. Brando wasn't about playing by the rules, he rewrote them. While some found his habits frustrating, others saw it as part of what made him a creative force. Brando's unpolished demeanor became part of his allure. He wasn't trying to be perfect or polished, and that authenticity resonated with audiences. His raw talent and refusal to conform made him a symbol of the anti-Hollywood establishment. His refusal to play the Hollywood game, on or off the screen, only solidified his status as a true original. And speaking of actors who exuded rugged charisma while breaking the rules, few captured the rebellious spirit of Hollywood quite like Steve McQueen. Known as the King of Cool, McQueen didn't just star in films like Bullitt and The Great Escape, he embodied them. His on-screen intensity and effortless charm drew audiences in, but his colleagues weren't always as enamored. Behind the scenes, McQueen was as famous for his untamed habits as he was for his box office success. It wasn't just his defiance of Hollywood norms that stood out, it was his unapologetic disregard for hygiene, which became an unspoken part of his tough guy mystique. McQueen was a rebel, both in life and in cleanliness. On set, he was known for skipping showers and wearing the same clothes for days. Sweaty, scruffy, and unapologetic, he carried his I do what I want energy everywhere, even if it made others keep their distance. Co-stars and crew often whispered about his strong body odor. Yet, many chalked it up to his rough-edged authenticity. During The Great Escape, McQueen's habits reportedly caused some challenges. His natural musk became a talking point among the crew, and director John Sturges wasn't thrilled about it. Some even joked that McQueen's scent should have gotten its own credit in the movie. The same was said during Bullitt, where McQueen's sweaty dedication to action scenes made him a legend, and a bit of a nose-plug necessity for those nearby. For McQueen, his carefree attitude wasn't a gimmick, it was who he was. He wasn't interested in playing the Hollywood game of perfection. He wanted to be real, and if that meant skipping a shower or two, so be it. His friends often described him as someone who lived on his own terms. If you didn't like it, that was your problem, not his. Despite the grumblings behind the scenes, McQueen's smelly reputation didn't tarnish his career. Instead, it became part of his rough-and-tumble charm. Fans loved him for his fearless authenticity, even if his co-stars didn't always love his, scent. McQueen's name as the ultimate action star remains untouched.
His scruffy, sweaty image only made him more relatable, more magnetic, and yes, a little more human. Even if he wasn't the freshest-smelling guy on set, Steve McQueen was, and always will be, the king of cool. Fast forward to a new era of heartthrobs, and we find another actor who captured global attention with his mysterious charm, but for an entirely different audience. Robert Pattinson's transformation into the brooding vampire Edward Cullen in Twilight had fans swooning and filling theaters. His piercing gaze and enigmatic demeanor elevated him to instant stardom, cementing his place as the face of the franchise. During the Twilight era, Pattinson developed a reputation for being, let's say, low maintenance when it came to personal grooming. He openly admitted to rarely showering, often going days, sometimes weeks, without freshening up. "I don't like washing," he famously confessed, a comment that raised more than a few eyebrows. While his disheveled, devil-may-care attitude endeared him to some fans, it became a running joke on set. Crew members on the Twilight films didn't hold back, with several noting that Pattinson's body odor was, shall we say, memorable. His co-stars, including Kristen Stewart, made sly comments about his grooming habits in interviews. Some tried to laugh it off, framing his lack of hygiene as part of his quirky charm. Others were less charitable, suggesting that his resistance to basic cleanliness was a bit much, even for Hollywood's most rebellious leading man. Pattinson's reluctance to embrace showers wasn't limited to his personal life. He famously wore the same clothes repeatedly, often for days at a time. While many of his peers spent hours in hair and makeup, Pattinson seemed to delight in showing up as is, unapologetically unkempt. His attitude toward cleanliness was less about rebellion and more about sheer indifference. He simply didn't care, and somehow that only added to his mystique. Despite the chatter about his hygiene, Pattinson's career flourished. His raw talent and unconventional charm overshadowed any rumors about his scent. In fact, his scruffy, nonconformist vibe only made him more appealing to fans who saw him as refreshingly real compared to the hyper-polished stars surrounding him. Pattinson's rise to fame proved that Hollywood's obsession with perfection has its exceptions. Whether or not he smelled like a fresh meadow, his talent and charisma shone through. And let's be honest, in a world of picture-perfect vampires, it was nice to know that even Edward Cullen could be a little human after all. Switching from brooding vampires to endearingly awkward British charm, we come to Hugh Grant. Bursting onto the Hollywood scene in the 1990s, Grant became the quintessential leading man for romantic comedies like Four Weddings and A Funeral and Notting Hill. His boyish good looks and stammering wit made audiences fall head over heels, cementing him as one of the most beloved actors of the decade. Behind the polished, swoon-worthy on-screen persona was someone who took a much more casual approach to personal hygiene. Grant was famously laid back, and his grooming habits reflected that relaxed vibe. Reports from various sets suggest that his disheveled appearance wasn't always a costume. It was just Hugh being Hugh. Wrinkled clothes, messy hair, and a noticeable lack of freshening up were common features of his off-screen style. Crew members on films like 9 Months and Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reason often joked about his au naturel approach to cleanliness. One recurring quirk? Grant would show up to set in the same clothes he wore the day before, looking suspiciously like he'd rolled straight out of bed. Showers and hairbrushes didn't seem to make it into his morning routine very often. And while some co-stars may have politely avoided commenting, crew members weren't shy about noticing his laissez-faire attitude toward grooming. Despite his sometimes questionable hygiene, Grant's charm always won people over. His imperfections made him relatable, and his self-deprecating humor disarmed even his toughest critics. In an industry obsessed with perfect looks and carefully curated images, Grant's carefree demeanor felt refreshingly authentic. However, his relaxed habits weren't without their challenges. Rumors of skipped showers and unbrushed teeth occasionally led to whispers among those who worked closely with him. But for Grant, it was just part of who he was. He wasn't interested in conforming to Hollywood's obsession with flawless appearances. In the end, Grant's laid-back hygiene habits never slowed him down. His on-screen magic kept audiences hooked.
and his ability to make people laugh and swoon secured his spot as one of Hollywood's most beloved actors. Even if he didn't always smell like roses, Hugh Grant's charm was enough to carry him through. Speaking of actors who broke the mold and rewrote the rules, few names come to mind as quickly as Johnny Depp. When Depp swaggered onto the screen as Captain Jack Sparrow, he wasn't just playing a pirate, he was redefining one. With his slurred speech, off-kilter humor, and wildly unpredictable energy, Sparrow became one of the most iconic characters of the 2000s. Depp's performance turned a quirky supporting role into the centerpiece of Pirates of the Caribbean, skyrocketing his career to new heights. Behind the scenes, Depp's habits veered far from Hollywood's glossy standards. His reputation for skipping showers and rocking a lived-in look followed him everywhere. Turns out, Depp wasn't just unconventional in his acting. His grooming routines, or lack thereof, became part of the story too. From the sets of Pirates of the Caribbean to Finding Neverland, reports often mentioned Depp's disheveled appearance. Co-stars and crew knew he wasn't one to fuss over his reflection. Depp openly admitted to going weeks without a proper shower. It wasn't a statement or rebellion, just Depp being Depp. He preferred to focus on his craft rather than what shampoo to use. His unkempt look seemed to bleed into his roles, adding a raw authenticity that fans adored. Not everyone found it charming, though. Orlando Bloom, Depp's Pirates co-star, joked that Depp's scent took some getting used to. Crew members whispered about his lingering body odor, a kind of ode to Depp that stuck around long after he left. Still, most shrugged it off as part of his quirky charm. In a world obsessed with appearances, Depp's unapologetic attitude felt refreshingly real to many. For Depp, this carefree approach wasn't just about hygiene. It was part of his larger rebellion against Hollywood norms. He built a career on playing characters that didn't fit the mold, and his off-screen persona followed suit. Depp wasn't trying to be a heartthrob or a polished leading man. He wanted to be an artist, and his odd habits became as much a part of his mystique as his roles. Ironically, Depp has been the face of Dior Sauvage since 2015, fronting ad campaigns for the fragrance line that includes eau de toilette, parfum, aftershave lotion, and deodorant. Somehow, the contrast only adds to his mystique. Depp was and remains in a league of his own, unpolished, unpredictable, and undeniably captivating. And when it comes to unpredictability, few actors rival Nicolas Cage. Known for his intense performances and outlandish choices, Cage has carved out a space in Hollywood that's entirely his own. From stealing the Declaration of Independence in National Treasure to unleashing unbridled chaos in Mandy, his larger-than-life energy makes him a perfect fit for roles that demand eccentricity. But Cage's intensity isn't limited to the screen. It spills over into his personal life, including his grooming habits. Stories from film sets paint a picture of an actor who throws himself so fully into his roles that personal upkeep often takes a back seat. Whether it's skipping showers or embracing an unkempt aesthetic, Cage's offbeat approach to life has left co-stars and crew with memorable anecdotes about his, let's say, earthy presence. Cage himself has admitted that he cares more about his craft than his appearance. Grooming, he said, simply isn't a priority when he's diving into a role. His off-screen look often mirrored the chaos of his characters: rumpled clothes, unkempt hair, and a general air of dishevelment. During the filming of Ghost Rider, reports of Cage's body odor made their way around the set, with some crew members noticeably uncomfortable. For Cage, this wasn't about making a statement. It was just who he was, someone so focused on his work that everything else fell by the wayside. Even on the set of National Treasure, Cage's hygiene habits became an inside joke. He'd often show up in the same outfit he'd worn the day before, hair looking like it hadn't seen a comb in weeks. Co-stars joked about his wild appearance, but it was all in good fun. For most, this was just another layer of Cage's unpredictable charm. His messy aesthetic only added to his mystique, making him seem more like a mad genius than a polished leading man. Despite the jokes and occasional grumbles, Cage's talent always took center stage.
His ability to bring raw emotion and complexity to every role outweighed any complaints about his grooming. Fans and critics were more interested in his acting than his hygiene. In fact, his unpolished demeanor became part of his brand, an extension of his unpredictable, no-holds-barred approach to both life and work. And speaking of stars who embrace their natural selves, Matthew McConaughey takes the concept to a whole new level. Rising to fame in the late 1990s and early 2000s, McConaughey became the epitome of cool with roles in films like Dazed and Confused and The Wedding Planner. His breezy confidence and southern charm made him a household name, winning over audiences with his easygoing, relatable appeal. But McConaughey's relaxed vibe didn't stop at his public persona. It spilled over into his personal life, particularly his approach to hygiene. On the sets of films like Magic Mike and The Lincoln Lawyer, whispers began circulating about McConaughey's unconventional grooming habits. He openly admitted he didn't see the point of daily showers, preferring to embrace his body's natural scent. In interviews, McConaughey was unapologetic about his approach, often laughing off questions about his hygiene. "I smell like the beach," he quipped in one interview, as if his salty, sweaty aroma was all part of the package. Not everyone shared his enthusiasm for going natural. Co-stars occasionally commented on the challenges of working in close quarters with him during long filming days. One even hinted that McConaughey's natural musk made intimate scenes a little too memorable, but McConaughey brushed off the critiques, sticking to his laid-back, go-with-the-flow philosophy. To him, it was just another way of staying true to himself. Despite the occasional grumbles from those who had to endure his earthy aroma, McConaughey's career didn't miss a beat. His charisma and undeniable talent kept audiences hooked. Whether playing a smooth-talking lawyer or a dreamy rom-com lead, he continued to charm his way into fans' hearts. His relaxed, beachy persona only added to his appeal, solidifying his image as Hollywood's ultimate free spirit. In many ways, McConaughey's disregard for traditional grooming became part of his mystique. Fans saw him as the guy who didn't sweat the small stuff, literally. His unpolished approach to life set him apart in an industry obsessed with perfection, making him one of the most relatable and adored stars of his generation. For McConaughey, staying true to himself always came first, even if it meant skipping a shower or two. And while McConaughey leaned into his laid-back charm, Gerard Butler took ruggedness to a whole new level, rising to international fame with his iconic role as King Leonidas in 300. Butler became synonymous with tough guy grit and fearless intensity. His chiseled physique and commanding presence on screen were a direct result of intense training regimens that pushed him to the limits. But all that sweat and determination didn't always lead to a post-workout shower. On the set of 300 and Olympus Has Fallen, Butler's dedication to physical training often came at a cost, mainly to those around him. After grueling workouts and hours of filming battle scenes, Butler was known for skipping showers. Crew members joked about his lingering body odor, but it became part of the raw and real vibe he brought to his roles. While some actors would freshen up after a tough day, Butler seemed unbothered. For him, staying focused on his work mattered more than smelling fresh. One story from 300 stands out. After an intense training session, Butler would head straight to set without bothering to clean up. His scent, described by some as noticeable, filled the room. Instead of being embarrassed, Butler owned it. He embraced his gritty, unpolished persona and seemed to enjoy the jokes at his expense. His attitude fit the Spartan warrior image he was portraying, rugged, raw, and unapologetically intense. Not everyone on set was thrilled, of course. Some co-stars found his habits hard to deal with, especially in close quarters. But for fans, these quirks only added to his appeal. Butler's rugged, no-nonsense image resonated with audiences, and his performances overshadowed any off-screen complaints. Interestingly, despite his rugged persona, Gerard Butler has admitted to being terrified of shaking hands. After walking the red carpet, he often makes a beeline for the nearest bathroom to wash up, worried about catching germs. Butler's rough-around-the-edges charm kept him landing major roles, solidifying his place as one of Hollywood's favorite action stars. His refusal to conform made him stand out, and for many that raw energy was part of what made him unforgettable.
It's the early 1940s. Hollywood's golden age is in full bloom, a time when cinema was more than entertainment. It was a beacon of dreams in a world riddled with conflict. On the surface, Hollywood was a land of endless glamour and opportunity, but beneath this glittering facade lay hidden tales of personal struggle and emotional turmoil. Take, for instance, the premiere of Gone with the Wind in 1939, a cinematic event that captivated millions. Among the glittering stars was Vivien Leigh, an actress whose portrayal of Scarlett O'Hara would become legendary. Yet, unknown to the adoring public, Leigh was embarking on a lifelong battle with bipolar disorder, a struggle that would contrast sharply with her on-screen triumphs. Or consider the case of Frances Farmer, a rising star in the late 1930s whose career was abruptly derailed by a series of mental health challenges and legal troubles, leading to a tragic and misunderstood life. Her story, like many others from this era, was a stark reminder of the human cost of fame. These narratives, from Gene Tierney's unseen battles with mental health and personal loss to Rita Hayworth, who behind her glamorous image faced a tumultuous personal life, reveal a different side of Hollywood, a side where the bright lights of fame cast long, dark shadows of loneliness, depression, and misunderstanding. As we delve into these stories, we're not just revisiting the past glories of cinema, we're uncovering the hidden, often painful realities faced by some of its most iconic figures. This journey through Hollywood's history is not just about the stars we thought we knew. It's about revealing the untold stories that remind us that even in a world of make-believe, reality is never far away. What secrets do these stars hold, and what truths about fame and its costs can we learn from their lives? The answers lie in the untold, deeply human stories of Hollywood's most enigmatic figures. The enigmatic Vivien Leigh. Her portrayal of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind immortalized her in the pantheon of cinematic legends. Yet the story of Vivien Leigh is not just one of accolades and applause. It's a tale woven with threads of brilliance and despair, a narrative that reveals the stark contrast between her public persona and private life. Born in British India in 1913, Vivien's journey to stardom was marked by determination and an unwavering passion for acting. Her ascent to fame was meteoric, fueled by a combination of talent, beauty, and an indomitable spirit. However, beneath the surface of this success lay a tumultuous personal life, marred by struggles that remained largely hidden from the public eye. Leigh's life was a constant battle with mental health issues, a struggle that was little understood and often stigmatized during her time. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, known at the time as manic depression, a condition that led to extreme mood swings and erratic behavior. These episodes often occurred at critical moments in her career, impacting her professional relationships and her ability to work. Her marriage to Laurence Olivier, while a union of two of the greatest acting talents, was fraught with challenges. The couple's passionate relationship was often in the public eye, but what remained unseen was how Leahy's mental health struggles put a strain on their marriage. Her condition, coupled with Olivier's rising career, created a complex dynamic that was both passionate and tumultuous. Despite her personal challenges, Vivien Leigh's professional achievements were undeniable. She won 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress, a testament to her extraordinary talent. However, her career was also marked by periods of inactivity, partly due to her health issues. Her struggle with tuberculosis, which eventually led to her untimely death at the age of 53, added another layer of tragedy to her life. Vivien Leigh's story is not just a tale of a Hollywood icon, it's a poignant reminder of the human behind the star. Her life challenges the glamorous image often associated with movie stars, revealing a reality marked by personal battles and resilience. Lee's legacy is not only in her unforgettable performances, but also in her enduring spirit in the face of adversity. Frances Farmer's tragic tale. This Hollywood story is one of the most poignant and tragic. Her career, filled with promise and potential, was overshadowed by a series of personal and legal troubles that would ultimately define her legacy more than her cinematic achievements. Born in 1913, the same year as Vivien Leigh, Frances Farmer's rise in Hollywood during the 1930s and 1940s was marked by her striking beauty and formidable acting talent. She quickly gained attention for her performances in films like Come and Get It and Rhythm on the Range. However, Farmer's outspoken nature and nonconformist attitudes, rare in Hollywood at the time, often put her at odds with studio executives and the media. The turning point in Farmer's life came with her increasing emotional and psychological struggles. Her behavior became erratic, and she had several run-ins with the law, leading to sensationalized headlines. The most heartbreaking chapter of her life began with her involuntary commitment to psychiatric institutions. During these periods, she underwent various treatments, including electroconvulsive therapy, which were standard practices at the time but are now considered controversial. The narrative of Frances Farmer is often overshadowed by myths and exaggerations, particularly regarding her mental health and the treatments she received. Her story has been the subject of numerous books and films, some of which have contributed to the sensationalism surrounding her life. However, beneath these sensationalized accounts lies the story of a woman whose bright future in Hollywood was derailed by a combination of personal demons, a misunderstanding of mental health, and a society unprepared to handle such issues with sensitivity and understanding. Farmer's career never fully recovered from these challenges, and she spent much of her later life away from the spotlight. Her story is a stark reminder of the fragility of fame and the human cost of untreated mental health issues. Frances Farmer's legacy in Hollywood is not just as an actress, but as a symbol of the often tragic intersection of fame, mental health, and the unforgiving nature of public scrutiny. Gene Tierney's unseen battles. In the golden era of Hollywood, Gene Tierney's presence on the silver screen was synonymous with elegance and grace. Yet, behind the captivating performances and the stunning visage that graced countless movie posters, Tierney was waging a personal battle far removed from the public eye. Her journey in Hollywood began with promise and success. Tierney quickly rose to fame with her striking looks and talent, starring in classics like Laura and Leave Her to Heaven. Her performance in the latter earned her an Academy Award nomination, cementing her status as a leading lady of her time. However, Tierney's life was marked by a series of personal tragedies and health issues that profoundly affected her. One of the most heart-wrenching episodes was the birth of her daughter, who was born deaf and with severe mental disabilities, a consequence of Tierney contracting rubella during her pregnancy. This event took a significant toll on Tierney, leading to periods of depression. Tierney's struggles with mental health were compounded by the pressures of Hollywood fame. She faced a series of emotional challenges, including turbulent relationships and the stress of maintaining her public image. Her mental health issues eventually led to a hiatus from acting, during which she received treatment, including electroconvulsive therapy. Despite these challenges, Tierney made a comeback in the 1950s, though she never regained the same level of stardom. Her later years were quieter, marked by a retreat from the public eye and a focus on her personal life and health. The story of Gene Tierney is a poignant reminder of the hidden struggles that often lie behind a facade of celebrity. Her life challenges the often glamorized image of Hollywood stars, revealing a narrative filled with personal hardship, resilience, and the pursuit of peace away from the limelight. Rita Hayworth, Glamour and Pain. The image of Rita Hayworth flipping her hair in Gilda has become an iconic symbol of Hollywood glamour. However, the life of Margarita Carmen Cancino, known to the world as Rita Hayworth, was a complex tapestry of dazzling highs and profound lows, reflecting a stark contrast between her public persona and private struggles. Hayworth's rise to fame was meteoric. Known for her sensational dance skills and captivating beauty, she quickly became one of the era's most beloved stars. Her performances in films like The Lady from Shanghai and Gilda solidified her status as a Hollywood icon, but the spotlight that shone so brightly on her professional life cast deep shadows on her personal world. Behind the scenes, Hayworth's life was marked by tumultuous relationships, including 5 marriages, most notably to Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan. These relationships, often played out in the public eye, brought their own set of challenges and heartaches. However, it was her struggle with Alzheimer's disease, a diagnosis that came later in her life, that perhaps marked the most challenging battle she faced. Hayworth's decline due to Alzheimer's, at a time when there was little understanding of the disease, was heartbreaking. Her condition was initially misunderstood as alcoholism, a misconception that added to the challenges she faced. The latter years of her life were a far cry from the glitz and glamour of her Hollywood days as she became more reclusive, grappling with a disease that slowly took away the memories of her illustrious career. Hayworth's later years were a stark contrast to the vibrant energy she once radiated on screen. As Alzheimer's disease progressed, it gradually dimmed the memory of her once luminous career. The public, largely unaware of the nature of her illness, witnessed a beloved icon's retreat from the limelight, a retreat marked by confusion and misunderstanding. This period of her life, less documented and understood, stands as a silent chapter in the story of one of Hollywood's most celebrated figures. Montgomery Clift, a tormented genius. Often hailed as one of the original method actors in Hollywood, Montgomery brought an intensity and vulnerability to his roles that was unmatched in his time. His performances in films like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity showcased a depth and sensitivity that set him apart from his contemporaries. However, the same sensitivity that made him a star also made him profoundly susceptible to the pressures of fame and the personal demons that haunted him. Born in 1920, Clift's upbringing was marked by a nomadic lifestyle, with his family frequently moving across Europe and the United States. This transient childhood, while enriching in many ways, also instilled in him a sense of detachment and loneliness, themes that would recur throughout his life and career. Clift's early foray into theater acting laid the foundation for his future success in Hollywood, where he quickly established himself as a leading man with a unique, introspective approach to his craft. Clift's career, however, was dramatically altered by a devastating car accident in 1956. The accident left his face partially paralyzed and marked a turning point in his life and career. He became increasingly dependent on alcohol and prescription drugs, a dependency that exacerbated his existing struggles with mental health. The accident not only changed his physical appearance, but also seemed to deepen the emotional turmoil he expressed in his performances. Despite his personal struggles, Clift continued to deliver powerful performances. His roles in post-accident films like Judgment at Nuremberg and The Misfits were testament to his enduring talent and his ability to channel his personal pain into his art. However, the toll of his accident, compounded by the pressures of his career and his unresolved personal issues, led to a gradual decline in his health. Clift's relationships, both romantic and platonic, were complex and often fraught with challenges. He was known for his close friendships with several of his co-stars, including Elizabeth Taylor, who became a lifelong friend and supporter. His romantic life, kept private and away from the public eye, was a source of speculation and intrigue. Clift, a deeply private individual, struggled with the invasive nature of fame and the often unforgiving scrutiny of the Hollywood spotlight. The final years of Clift's life were marked by a retreat from the public eye and a continuing battle with health issues. His death in 1966 at the age of 45 was a tragic end to a life and career that had shown such promise and brilliance. Barbara Payton's downfall. Her story in Hollywood is a cautionary tale of meteoric rise and precipitous fall, a narrative that starkly contrasts the initial promise of her career with its tragic end. Payton, who burst onto the Hollywood scene in the late 1940s, possessed the looks and talent that seemed to destine her for stardom. However, her life quickly spiraled into a series of personal crises and public scandals that overshadowed her professional achievements. Born in 1927 in Minnesota, Payton moved to Los Angeles in her early 20s. Her striking blonde beauty and charisma quickly caught the attention of film executives, leading to roles in films like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye and Trapped. Her performance in these films showcased not just her physical allure, but a genuine acting talent. However, despite her promising start, Payton's career was soon derailed by a tumultuous personal life. Payton's life off-screen became fodder for the tabloids, marked by high-profile romances, including a tumultuous relationship with actor Tom Neal and her marriage to Franchot Tone, which was marred by violence and public altercations. These personal issues began to affect her professional life, leading to a decline in the quality and quantity of her roles. As her career faltered, Payton's personal struggles deepened. She battled with alcoholism and financial difficulties, which led to a series of arrests and public incidents that further tarnished her reputation. The film industry, which had once welcomed her, now turned its back, leaving her to grapple with her demons largely alone. The latter part of Payton's life was a far cry from her Hollywood beginnings. She faced poverty, struggled with addiction, and was largely forgotten by an industry that had once celebrated her. Her death in 1967 at the age of 39 was a tragic end to a life that had once held so much potential. Barbara Payton's story is a stark reminder of the ephemeral nature of fame and the destructive power of personal demons in the unforgiving world of Hollywood. Her journey from starlet to forgotten figure highlights the precarious balance between public image and personal reality in the life of a celebrity. Payton's life, marked by brief success and prolonged struggle, serves as a poignant example of the often harsh realities that lie behind the glamour of the silver screen. The complex life of Errol Flynn. His name is synonymous with the swashbuckling heroes he portrayed on screen, a symbol of charisma, adventure, and romantic allure in Hollywood's golden age. However, Flynn's off-screen life was as complex and tumultuous as any plot in his films, marked by scandal, legal battles, and a lifestyle that both fascinated and shocked the public. Born in Tasmania in 1909, Flynn's early life was as adventurous as his film roles. He was known for his wanderlust, traveling to various parts of the world, including New Guinea, where he sought fortune and adventure. This restless spirit eventually led him to Hollywood, where he quickly rose to fame after his breakthrough role in Captain Blood, 1935. His portrayal of dashing and daring characters in films like The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, made him one of the most popular and highest-paid actors of his time. Flynn's public persona as a charming rogue was mirrored in his personal life. He was famous for his romantic escapades, marrying 3 times and being linked to numerous actresses and socialites. His lifestyle was characterized by lavish parties, excessive drinking, and a general disdain for convention. This behavior, while initially adding to his allure, eventually began to tarnish his image as the darker aspects of his life came to light. One of the most significant and damaging episodes in Flynn's life was the 1943 trial, where he was accused of statutory rape. Although he was acquitted, the trial was a media sensation, and the allegations left a lasting stain on his reputation. The phrase "in like Flynn" became synonymous with sexual conquest, further cementing his image as a womanizer, an image that Flynn himself seemed to embrace publicly, despite the personal and professional costs. Flynn's health began to deteriorate in the 1950s, exacerbated by years of heavy drinking and drug use. His once matinee idol looks faded, and his performances suffered, leading to fewer and less prestigious roles. Despite his declining health, Flynn continued to live a life marked by excess and controversy, including a much-publicized relationship with Beverly Edlund, a teenager in his final years. Errol Flynn's death in 1959 at the age of 50 was seen by many as a tragic end to a life that had burned too brightly. His autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, published posthumously, offered a candid look at his life and career, filled with anecdotes that confirmed many of the rumors about his lifestyle. Veronica Lake's lost sparkle. With her trademark peekaboo hairstyle and sultry on-screen presence, Veronica Lake became an iconic figure of 1940s Hollywood. However, behind the glamorous image and successful career, Lake's life was a journey marked by dramatic rises and falls, reflecting the often harsh realities of stardom. Born as Constance Frances Marie Aukelman in 1922, Lake's early life was unsettled, with frequent moves and a troubled family background. Her entry into Hollywood was almost as if by fate, a combination of her striking looks and a chance encounter with a film producer. She quickly gained attention for her roles in films like I Wanted Wings and Sullivan's Travels, where her distinctive hairstyle and alluring screen presence made her an instant star. Lake's most successful period came in the early 1940s with a series of film noir roles alongside Alan Ladd. Their on-screen chemistry in movies like This Gun for Hire and The Blue Dahlia was electric, making them one of the era's most popular screen pairs. However, as quickly as her star rose, it began to fade, impacted by a series of personal and professional challenges. One of the first signs of trouble was Lake's reputation for being difficult on set. Her unpredictable behavior and clashes with directors and co-stars became increasingly problematic. This difficult reputation, whether deserved or exaggerated, began to impact her career opportunities. Lake's personal life was equally tumultuous. She was married 4 times, with each marriage ending in divorce. Her struggles with mental health and alcoholism became more pronounced as her career waned. By the 1950s, Lake's star had significantly dimmed. She made sporadic appearances in films and television, but the glory of her early career seemed a distant memory. The most poignant aspect of Lake's story is her fall into obscurity and financial hardship in the 1960s. Once a glamorous Hollywood icon, she was found working as a waitress in New York, a startling and saddening revelation to her fans. This period of her life was marked by struggles with poverty, mental health issues, and continued battles with alcoholism. Lake attempted a comeback in the late 1960s and early 1970s, but her health issues and the changing landscape of Hollywood made it difficult for her to regain her former status. Her death in 1973, at the age of 50, was a quiet end to a life that had once been the subject of intense public fascination. In a time when society believed that a woman's place was in the kitchen, a caliber of women arose and decided they were going to break down barriers and chase their dreams, consequences be damned. Some of these women went on to become renowned writers, actresses, and even directors in the golden age of Hollywood. Back then, the film industry was male-dominated, but somehow, these women were not only able to rise to the top of the industry, but also opened the door for other women to thrive. From the daring Mae West to the fearless Katharine Hepburn, these are some of the women who broke barriers in the golden age of Hollywood. Mary Pickford. In the early 1900s, Mary Pickford, born Gladys Louise Smith, was just a young girl from Canada, but one thing was certain: she was destined for greatness. Despite her sweet and innocent appearance with those trademark ringlets, there was more to her than met the eye. When she entered Hollywood, she made moves that were typically synonymous with men at the time. Mary Pickford was a multi-talented woman, and her exploits in Hollywood proved to everyone that she was a genius. Mary wasn't just a movie star, she was the movie star. Back in the early days of American cinema, she skyrocketed to fame, becoming the most popular and influential actress of her time. From obscurity to stardom, she made it look easy, and thousands of fans couldn't get enough of her. Mary Pickford wasn't content with just being a pretty face on the silver screen. She had her eyes set on shaping the very industry that had embraced her. Among her many accomplishments, she was applauded for her exploits as the founder of United Artists. She was one of the masterminds behind this game-changing studio that allowed artists to have more control over their work. But Mary was more than just a brilliant actress and a savvy businesswoman. She was a sharp producer, too. She wasn't afraid to roll up her sleeves and get things done behind the scenes. Her talent and drive weren't just admirable for a woman of her time, they were remarkable. She is remembered today for her famous works like Little Lord Fauntleroy, which showcased her versatility, and Pollyanna, which solidified her status as America's sweetheart. And let's not forget Coquette, a role that won her the first ever Academy Award for Best Actress. Mary Pickford certainly left a mark in the industry and showed other women that it is possible to thrive in a male-dominated industry. Alice Guy. In a time when movies were still finding their feet and the flickering silver screen was a realm dominated by men in bowler hats and handlebar mustaches, there emerged a woman who would forever change the course of Hollywood history. Her name was Alice Guy, the world's first woman filmmaker, a true pioneer who danced to the beat of her celluloid dreams. Alice Guy didn't just tiptoe into the movie business, she waltzed in and seized control. Back in the late 19th century, she held the reins of production at Gaumont in France. In an era when women were usually confined to playing supporting roles, Alice took center stage, directing her own destiny. With a spirit as adventurous as her storytelling, she packed her bags and sailed across the Atlantic to the land of stars and stripes, where she boldly planted her flag on the cinematic frontier. And this was years before women could cast their votes in either country. One of the things that set Alice Guy apart from the rest is her sheer prolificacy. Like a whirlwind of creativity, she directed hundreds of films during a time when the concept of feature-length movies was but a glimmer in someone's eye. She was at the helm from 1896 to 1916, essentially from the very birth of cinema itself. While her contemporaries were content with rudimentary acting on screen, Alice had a vision. She insisted on an acting style tailored specifically for the silver screen. Her actors didn't just recite lines. They emoted. They connected with the audience through the lens. It was a revelation, and it laid the foundation for the emotive powerhouse that modern cinema would become. But Alice's innovation didn't stop there. She was known for seamlessly integrating special effects into narrative storytelling, giving birth to what we now call trick films. Her creativity knew no bounds, and she had a knack for using close-up shots to elicit maximum emotional impact from her audience. Dorothy Arzner. She once said, "My philosophy is that to be a director, you cannot be subject to anyone, even the head of the studio." This statement proves that she was indeed a leader and a creative who was not afraid to do things her way. Dorothy Arzner initially pursued a career in medicine but soon found her true calling in the nascent world of cinema. She began her Hollywood career as a stenographer at the famous Players Lasky Corporation, where her exceptional skills and ambition caught the attention of director William DeMille. DeMille mentored her, and she swiftly climbed the ranks, working as a writer, editor, and eventually a director. Anyone who came across her could tell that she was laser-focused on her career and didn't let anyone stop her from achieving all that she wanted to achieve. After investing years into her career, her groundbreaking moment came when she directed Clara Bow in The Wild Party in 1929, marking Bow's transition to sound films. This film showed Arzner's unique vision and ability to capture the essence of complex female characters. Her work with Katharine Hepburn in Christopher Strong and Joan Crawford in The Bride Wore Red further solidified her reputation as a director who understood and celebrated the strength and complexity of women. In a Hollywood industry known for its conformity, Arzner was a rebel. She refused to compromise her creative vision and insisted on directing films her way, a trait that set her apart from many of her contemporaries. As the only woman director working at a major Hollywood studio in the 1930s, she faced numerous challenges and prejudices, but her determination remained unshaken. Dorothy Arzner was the very image of resilience and innovation. She not only proved that women could excel in male-dominated industries, but also shattered glass ceilings for female directors in Hollywood. Katharine Hepburn. Whenever the name Katharine Hepburn is mentioned, people instantly remember a fearless, determined, and talented woman, an unyielding force of nature that Hollywood had never seen before. With a unique blend of fearlessness and grace, she graced screens as a leading woman in films like The Philadelphia Story. In this film, Hepburn took on the role of Tracy Lord, a character as sharp-witted as she was sophisticated. Tracy was a woman of privilege, whose impending marriage led to a series of comedic and introspective events. Through her role, she showed viewers that she was capable of effortlessly balancing humor and vulnerability. She also appeared in The Lion in Winter, where she tackled the formidable role of Eleanor of Aquitaine, a historical character known for her intelligence and political acumen. Set against the backdrop of a tumultuous royal family gathering, the film provided a stage for Hepburn's powerful performance. All through her career, she stood as a beacon of empowerment, showing women across the globe that they could be anything they aspired to be. In an era where women were often relegated to stereotypical roles, she shattered those confines with finesse. She carved her own path through a jungle of conventions, choosing roles with purpose and challenging societal norms. She wasn't just an actress. She was an advocate for her rights in an industry notorious for exploitation. Her legacy extends beyond her filmography. She earned the title of the American Film Academy's #1 female screen legend of the classic Hollywood era, a testament to her enduring impact. She was a modern woman of her time, an emblem of strength, resilience, and excellence. Katharine didn't just act. She redefined an industry and showed the world that, indeed, nothing was out of reach for women who dared to dream. Mae West. If there was any woman who was unapologetic about sensuality, it was Mae West, and she was determined to create a world where women were unashamed of expressing themselves freely, even if it landed her in jail. As a Hollywood actress and playwright, West's plays were so daring and risque that they landed her in hot water. In 1927, she was arrested and brought to trial for indecency due to her play titled Sex. Now, most people might have backed down, but not Mae West. She was as stubborn as they come, refusing to back down regardless of the legal situation. She knew her ideas were brilliant, and she was determined to see them through. One of the best ways to describe her is as a sultry siren draped in silk, a cigarette dangling from her lips, and a sly smile that could melt icebergs. She wasn't just a star, she was a sensation. Mae understood that sensuality was her secret weapon, and she wielded it like a pro. In an era of prudishness, she pushed boundaries with her seductive wit and provocative one-liners. Her subversive charm was a breath of fresh air in the stuffy Hollywood of her time. Critics might have gasped, but audiences adored her audacity. She wasn't just an actress, she was a cultural icon. Mae West's love affair with sensuality wasn't just a personal indulgence, it was her career rocket fuel. She penned her scripts, ensuring she had the juiciest lines, and she flaunted her hourglass figure in form-fitting gowns, daring censors to blink. Hollywood may have tried to tame her, but Mae's fiery spirit couldn't be extinguished. She wowed her fans with some of her most famous works like I'm No Angel and She Done Him Wrong. What made her stand out in her time was her magnetic charisma, her fearless embrace of her own sexuality, and her sharp wit. She wrote her own fantastically quotable dialogue, and some of her most famous lines are still celebrated today. She once said, "When I'm good, I'm very good, but when I'm bad, I'm better." Now, that's the kind of sass and charm that made Mae West an unforgettable Hollywood icon. She didn't just break the mold, she shattered it, leaving a legacy that's as fierce and fabulous as the lady herself. Bette Davis. With a cigarette in one hand and a fierceness that couldn't be doused, Bette Davis was on a mission to make a name for herself, and no one could stop her. She was like a freight train when it came to chasing her dreams. She kicked off her career as a Broadway actress, but she didn't stop there. She packed her bags and headed west to Hollywood in search of feature-length roles. During her early years in Hollywood, people could see that she wasn't your typical Hollywood beauty. She knew her talent was her ticket to stardom. Davis didn't bow to societal pressures or conventional standards of beauty. She simply let her acting prowess do the talking. She fearlessly took on roles that would make most actors hesitate. She played strong, independent women and characters with moral shades of gray. She didn't shy away from controversial stories. She embraced them. Her role in All About Eve, where she portrayed Margot Channing, an aging Broadway star whose career was slowly fading, is one of the roles that she is remembered for. She won several awards during her career, including her second Academy Award for her role as Julie Marsden, a headstrong Southern belle whose actions create scandal and intrigue. All through her lifetime, one of the things that people liked about her was her authenticity. She was never afraid to transform herself completely for a role, diving headfirst into the character's psyche. No pretense, just pure, unfiltered emotion. Her work ethic was legendary. Bette Davis demanded excellence from herself and everyone around her. She pushed the boundaries of her craft and inspired others to do the same. It is safe to say that she paved the way for generations of women. Ava Gardner. One look at Ava Gardner and her beauty would knock you off your feet. But beyond her looks, Ava Gardner possessed an acting talent that made her irresistible. Born on the 24th of December, 1922, Ava Gardner spent most of her early years in Grabtown, North Carolina. Her roots were firmly planted in rural soil, far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Growing up, she wanted to be an actress, but when she got into Hollywood, she didn't get reasonable roles. In fact, during the early 1940s, she was just another face in the crowd of Hollywood hopefuls, with small roles that appeared more numerous than significant. A few years later, she began to gain more recognition, and her breakthrough came in 1946 when she starred in The Killers. It wasn't just her striking beauty that captured hearts, but also her raw talent and magnetic presence on screen. From that moment, there was no stopping her. One of her most notable performances came in the 1951 adaptation of Showboat, a timeless classic that had seen two previous incarnations since 1929. Ava Gardner's name was like a beacon, drawing audiences to theaters, and it catapulted the film to become the third highest-grossing movie of the year, raking in over $7 million at the box office. She had a unique ability to infuse herself into different characters, and she was unafraid to take on complex roles, tackling both drama and comedy with equal grace. In an era where stereotypes often ruled, Ava Gardner stood out. She was a strong, independent woman on and off the screen. Through her works, she inspired countless women to go after their dreams. Ida Lupino. She was the definition of beauty, brains, and artistic ambition. She was an unassuming woman who was constantly doing exploits behind and in front of the camera. Like many Hollywood stars, she hailed from a family deeply immersed in the entertainment industry, with her father being a renowned stage comedian and her mother an actress. So you could say that the showbiz bug was in her blood from the get-go. Ida made her acting debut at the tender age of 13 in a British film titled Her First Affair in 1932, but she didn't stay on her home turf for long. Hollywood beckoned, and in 1933, at the age of 15, she set sail for the land of dreams. Her first Hollywood film was The Devil's in Love, which wasn't a massive hit but certainly got her foot in the door. It didn't take long for her talent and charisma to catch the eye of studio executives, and she began to land more prominent roles. In her early years, Lupino was groomed as a potential replacement for none other than Bette Davis at Warner Brothers. She had that special something, a wounded, soulful toughness that set her apart, even in the most forgettable films. Ida Lupino wasn't content with just being a leading lady on the silver screen. She had bigger dreams. She soaked up the fine art of direction by watching the likes of Raoul Walsh and William Wellman. Ida would later do what few dared to do at the time. She formed her own independent production company. This was a game changer. With that, Lupino opened the door to a whole new world of creativity and control. When it came to creativity, Ida Lupino wasn't interested in playing it safe. She chose controversial, socially conscious issues as the themes of her movies. She chose topics like rape, bigamy, polio, and unwed motherhood. These were groundbreaking subjects that challenged the norms of the day. Her works were loved and applauded by many, and it was clear that Ida made a conscious decision to live a life worth emulating. She passed away several decades ago, but several women are inspired by her story to date. Lois Weber. To Lois Weber, filmmaking was not just another job, it was an opportunity for her to give a voice to the voiceless and addressing issues that were not talked about in her time. She wasn't just a filmmaker of great skill, she was a bona fide auteur, a pioneer in every sense of the word. One of her most celebrated films was The Blot, a searing exploration of class disparities and the challenges faced by educators. It was a hit at the box office and cemented her reputation as a filmmaker who could tackle weighty subjects with grace and insight. She also directed Where Are My Children?, a groundbreaking film that dared to address the controversial topic of birth control way before it was considered acceptable in polite society. Lois had this incredible knack for taking on the most pressing social issues of her time, and interestingly, many of these issues are still haunting us today. Class tensions, she tackled that. Religious hypocrisy, she went there. And let's not forget about the struggles of women in poverty. Lois was on the front lines, bringing these stories to life. Lois Weber had a unique and incredible storytelling style. She had this incredible ability to infuse her films with allegorical elements, making her narratives resonate on a deeper, thought-provoking level. Lois Weber's story and works shows the power of film to shine a light on society's darkest corners. Dorothy Dandridge. She may have come from a family of performers, but Dorothy Dandridge didn't have a golden ticket. She had to carve her own path. When she was ready to embark on her journey in Hollywood, there was a major barrier in front of her, one that was born as a result of the color of her skin. In the early 1920s, she was born into a family of performers. Her mother, Ruby Dandridge, was an actress, and her sister, Vivian Dandridge, also pursued a career in entertainment. In the 1930s, when she was just a child, Dorothy and her family moved to Los Angeles, where she grew up in the heart of the budding film industry. As a teenager, she and her sister formed a singing and dancing duo called the Wonder Children, performing in venues around the city. Shortly after, life presented her with a platform where talent met opportunity. In the 1930s and 40s, Hollywood was still a segregated place, but there were opportunities for black performers in entertainment venues known as black nightclubs. Dorothy's talent caught the eye of talent scouts, and she began performing at these clubs. Her unique beauty and mesmerizing voice made her a rising star in the black entertainment circuit. But breaking into mainstream Hollywood was a different beast. The film industry was predominantly white, and racial barriers were high. Despite facing racial discrimination and limited roles for black actors, Dorothy Dandridge was determined to make her mark. In the 1940s, she started getting small roles in Hollywood films, often cast as a singer or dancer. These early roles might have been modest, but they were stepping stones. Slowly but surely, she gained recognition for her talent and versatility and her unique approach to acting. The turning point was her iconic role in Carmen Jones in 1954. It wasn't just a role, it was a statement. Carmen Jones. This movie wasn't just a stepping stone, it was a rocket launch for Dandridge's career. In 1954, she stepped into the shoes of Carmen Jones, a role that would make history. Carmen Jones featured an all-black cast, a rarity in those times. The film performed so well that it raked in over $10 million at the box office, proving that talent knows no color lines. Interestingly, Dandridge's performance in Carmen Jones didn't just make her a star, it made her the first African-American woman to snag a nomination for Best Actress. This groundbreaking move that paved the way for so many talented women to follow in her footsteps. But Dorothy didn't stop at movies. She had a voice that could move mountains and captivate audiences. A year after her big movie breakthrough, she graced the Empire Room in the heart of New York City, and she was the first black performer to do so. Unlike many female entertainers in her time, Dorothy Dandridge didn't rely on her beauty. She relied on her skills, her hard work, and her sheer determination. She showed the world that success in Hollywood didn't have to come in a one-size-fits-all package. Her legacy continues to echo, and her story serves as an inspiration for all aspiring talents out there. At a time when the spotlight was often reserved for a select few, she barged right in, and commanded that spotlight with her incredible talent. She will forever be remembered as an actress who swung the doors of fame wide open for people of color. The Golden Age was truly an interesting time in the history of Hollywood. Not only did it produce some of the most groundbreaking women in Hollywood, there were also several Hollywood stars who were allegedly working as spies during World War II. Could Marlene Dietrich's captivating eyes have been windows to a life filled with secrets and danger? Was the iconic actress not just stealing scenes, but also stealing classified information? As rumors swirled like a tempest, Marlene's life teetered on the edge of a precipice, her legacy at risk of being forever tarnished. But what if these whispers were more than just idle gossip? What if they were the echoes of covert operations so secretive they could alter the course of history? Hold on to your seats, because Marlene is just the tip of the iceberg. Hollywood's glittering facade has long concealed a labyrinth of secrets, and some of its brightest stars may have been embroiled in espionage, their double lives as thrilling as any blockbuster. In today's pulse-pounding video, we're peeling back layers of intrigue to reveal the Hollywood icons who might have been living on the edge, risking it all in a high-stakes game of espionage. From heart-stopping missions behind enemy lines to desperate alliances shrouded in mystery, we're unearthing stories so electrifying they've been hidden for decades. Prepare for a whirlwind journey that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Hollywood's golden age. This is one cinematic experience you'll never forget. The era of espionage in Hollywood. The glitz and glamour of Hollywood in the 1940s and 50s were a facade, a glittering mask that hid a world teeming with secrets and lies. The United States was embroiled in World War II and later the Cold War, casting long shadows over the land of dreams. Hollywood was not just a place of make-believe. It was a strategic asset, a propaganda machine, and a hotbed for political and ideological battles. The U.S. government saw the film industry as a powerful tool for shaping public opinion. The Office of War Information worked closely with studios to produce films that would boost morale and promote the American way of life, but where there was power, there was also the potential for subversion. The fear of communist infiltration was palpable. The House Un-American Activities Committee turned its gaze toward Hollywood, leading to the infamous blacklist that ruined careers and lives. In this atmosphere of heightened tension and paranoia, the line between actor and spy began to blur. The government recruited from Hollywood's ranks, seeking individuals who could move seamlessly between different roles both on and off the screen. These stars had access to high-profile events and influential people, making them ideal candidates for gathering intelligence. It was a time when anyone could be a spy and everyone was under suspicion. The stakes were high and the penalties for failure were even higher. In this world of smoke and mirrors, some of Hollywood's brightest stars would risk it all, embarking on clandestine missions that would take them far from the safety of the spotlight. But was Cary Grant alone? The next star's story is even more intriguing. Cary Grant, the British charmer. Born Archibald Alec Leach in Bristol, England in 1904, was the epitome of Hollywood charm and sophistication. With his suave demeanor and impeccable style, he captured the hearts of audiences worldwide. But behind that debonair smile lay a man of complexity, a man whose life was as intriguing off-screen as it was on. Grant's journey to Hollywood stardom was anything but ordinary. He ran away from home at the age of 14 to join a vaudeville troupe, honing his skills as a performer before making his way to the United States. By the late 1930s, he had become one of Hollywood's leading men, starring in classics like Bringin' Up Baby and His Girl Friday. His fame afforded him access to the upper echelons of society, a privilege that did not go unnoticed by those in power. As World War II raged on, the lines between entertainment and politics became increasingly blurred. Cary Grant, a British citizen who had yet to become an American, found himself in a unique position. His international status and connections made him an attractive asset for intelligence agencies. In 1941, the British Security Coordination, a secret arm of the British intelligence operating in New York, approached Grant for a mission that would take him far from the Hollywood hills. The operation was shrouded in secrecy, but it involved using Grant's celebrity status to gain access to high-profile events where he could gather information on Axis sympathizers in the United States. Grant was trained in the art of espionage, learning how to intercept communications and how to operate in the shadows. He was given a new identity, complete with a fabricated background and false documents. His mission was so confidential that even his closest confidants were kept in the dark. For years, Grant balanced his life as a Hollywood star and a covert operative, attending glamorous parties by night and engaging in secret missions by day. He was said to have been involved in Operation Mincemeat, a deceptive strategy that used misinformation to mislead Nazi Germany about the invasion of southern Europe. While the full extent of his involvement remains classified, declassified documents have hinted at his contributions to the war effort, which went far beyond his roles on the silver screen. But as the war came to an end, so did Grant's covert operations. He returned to Hollywood, resuming his career as if nothing had happened. Yet those who knew him said he was a changed man, haunted by the secrets he had carried and the lives he had touched. He became increasingly reclusive, shunning the spotlight he had once embraced. But was Cary Grant alone in this high-stakes game of espionage and intrigue? Far from it. The next star's story is even more captivating, a tale that takes us from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood to the dark and dangerous world of international espionage. Marlene Dietrich, the German enigma. Born Marie Magdalene Dietrich in Berlin, Germany in 1901, was a woman of enigma and allure. Her smoky voice and magnetic screen presence made her an international sensation, but it was her off-screen activities that would add an indelible layer of intrigue to her legacy. Dietrich's rise to stardom was meteoric. She caught the eye of director Josef von Sternberg, who cast her in The Blue Angel, a film that would catapult her to international fame. Hollywood soon beckoned, and Dietrich answered the call, leaving her native Germany for the promise of American stardom. But as she ascended the ladder of success, the world around her was descending into chaos. The rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime cast a dark shadow over Europe, and Dietrich, a staunch anti-Nazi, found herself torn between her homeland and her new life in America. It was during this tumultuous period that Dietrich was approached by the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA. Her mission, should she choose to accept it, was to use her celebrity status and connections to gather intelligence on Nazi activities. Dietrich didn't hesitate. She saw it as her moral duty to fight against the regime that was tearing her homeland apart. Trained in espionage techniques, including cryptography and psychological warfare, Dietrich was more than just a pretty face. She was a highly skilled operative. She embarked on a series of covert missions, often traveling under the guise of USO performances for troops. Her close relationship with General George Patton gave her unprecedented access to military strategies and plans, information she passed on to Allied forces. But Dietrich's most daring mission came in 1944, during the liberation of Paris. Posing as a German nurse, she infiltrated a POW camp to gather information on German troop movements. The intelligence she collected was invaluable, aiding in the successful liberation of the city. For her bravery, she was awarded the Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. Yet, despite her heroic efforts, Dietrich's activities were not without controversy. Rumors swirled about her relationships with both men and women, including high-ranking military officials and fellow spies. These liaisons raised eyebrows, leading some to question the nature of her involvement in espionage activities. Was she a patriot, or was she using her missions as a cover for more personal endeavors? As the war ended and the Cold War began, Dietrich found herself once again at the intersection of fame and infamy. She continued to act, but the roles she took on were tinged with a sense of melancholy, as if reflecting the complex, multifaceted life she had led. If you thought Marlene Dietrich's story was captivating, wait until you hear about our next star, a woman whose life was a tapestry of art, activism, and espionage. Her story is one that defies belief. Josephine Baker, the French Connection. She was born Freda Josephine MacDonald in St. Louis, Missouri in 1906.
She rose from the depths of poverty to become one of the most iconic entertainers of the 20th century. Known for her electrifying performances and her signature banana skirt, Baker was a sensation in Paris, far away from the racial segregation and discrimination she faced in her home country. But beneath the sequins and the spotlight was a woman of extraordinary courage, a woman who would become an unsung hero in the fight against tyranny. Baker's journey to espionage began in the dark days leading up to World War II. She had made France her home, and when the country she loved was threatened by Nazi occupation, she knew she had to act. Baker was recruited by the French Resistance, a clandestine organization fighting against Nazi rule. Her fame and her frequent travels provided the perfect cover for her activities as a spy. Her missions were fraught with danger but vital for the resistance. She smuggled secret messages and photographs across borders, hiding them in her sheet music or even sewn into her dresses. She gathered intelligence from high-ranking Japanese officials and Axis officers, often during her performances or at social events where she was the star attraction. Her cafe society connections were a treasure trove of information, and she exploited them to the fullest. But perhaps her most audacious act came in 1941 when she was enlisted for Operation Zeppelin, a mission to gather information on Italian air bases in North Africa. Posing as a journalist, Baker used her charm and wit to gain access to restricted areas, collecting data that was crucial for Allied forces. The intelligence she gathered was used in planning the North African campaign, a turning point in the war. For her bravery, Baker received several honors, including the Croix de Guerre and the Rosette of the Resistance. She was the first American woman to receive such high French military honors, yet despite her heroism, her contributions were often overshadowed by her stage persona, leading many to underestimate the depth of her involvement in espionage activities. After the war, Baker continued to break barriers, becoming a vocal advocate for civil rights and racial equality. She returned to the United States in the 1950s using her platform to speak against segregation and discrimination, yet the scars of her wartime experiences never fully healed. She was a woman divided, caught between the allure of the stage and the harsh realities of a world torn apart by conflict. Josephine Baker was not the only one using her international fame for espionage. Stay tuned for our next chapter, where we delve into the life of a Hollywood star whose espionage activities were so secret they were only revealed decades later. Sterling Hayden, the reluctant patriot. Born Sterling Rillia Walter in Montclair, New Jersey in 1916, was a man of many faces, a sailor, a Marine, a Hollywood actor, and a writer. Hayden lived a life that read like a novel, but one of the most intriguing chapters of his life was his involvement in espionage during World War II and the Cold War, a chapter that remained hidden for decades. Before he became a Hollywood star, Hayden was a sailor. His love for the sea led him to join the Marine Corps, where he served with distinction. But it was his rugged good looks and towering presence that caught the eye of Hollywood scouts. Soon he was starring in films like Asphalt Jungle and Dr. Strangelove and becoming a household name. Yet, despite his success, Hayden was a man plagued by inner demons, a man searching for a purpose beyond the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. That purpose came in the form of a secret mission orchestrated by the Office of Strategic Services. Hayden was recruited for Operation Underworld, a clandestine effort to gather intelligence on Axis powers. His maritime skills made him an ideal candidate for the mission, which involved infiltrating enemy lines to collect information on naval movements and submarine activities. Hayden underwent rigorous training, learning the arts of sabotage, cryptography, and hand-to-hand combat. He was given a new identity, complete with a fabricated backstory and false documents. His mission took him to the treacherous waters of the Mediterranean, where he operated undercover as a fisherman. The intelligence he gathered was invaluable, aiding in the planning of Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of North Africa. But Hayden's involvement in espionage didn't end with World War II. During the Cold War, he was once again called upon to serve his country, this time as a CIA operative. His mission was to infiltrate communist circles in Eastern Europe, gathering intelligence on Soviet activities. The details of these missions remain classified, But what is known is that Hayden's work had a significant impact on U.S. foreign policy during a critical period in history. Yet, despite his contributions, Hayden was a reluctant patriot. He was disillusioned by the bureaucracy and the moral ambiguities of espionage, leading him to question the very ideals he had fought for. In his later years, he turned to writing, penning an autobiography that touched upon his experiences but left much unsaid. He passed away in 1986, taking many of his secrets to the grave. Up next, a star whose espionage activities were so secret they were only revealed decades later, involving not just espionage but also a tale of love and betrayal. Noel Coward, the master of disguise. Born in 1899 in Teddington, England, was a man of many talents. A playwright, composer, director, actor, and singer, Coward was a Renaissance man in the truest sense. His wit and charm made him a darling of London's West End and Broadway, but it was his work behind the scenes in the murky world of espionage that adds an unexpected twist to his storied life. Coward's foray into the world of espionage began at the onset of World War II. His close friendship with Winston Churchill provided him an entry into the British Secret Service. Churchill, recognizing Coward's unique skill set, enlisted him in the Political Warfare Executive, a secret organization aimed at spreading propaganda and gathering intelligence. Given his extensive travels and international connections, Coward was the perfect candidate for covert operations. He was trained in the arts of deception, code-breaking, and psychological manipulation. Armed with these skills and his natural charisma, Coward embarked on a series of missions that took him from the salons of Paris to the political hotbeds of Africa and the Middle East. One of his most daring missions involved infiltrating the Vichy government in France. Posing as a neutral journalist, Coward gained access to high-ranking officials, gathering intelligence on troop movements and political alliances. His reports were instrumental in shaping British strategy in the North African campaign, particularly the Battle of El Alamein, a turning point in the war. But Coward's espionage activities were not without personal cost. His relationship with longtime partner Graham Payne came under scrutiny, leading to rumors and innuendos. The British government, wary of the potential scandal, sidelined Coward, relegating him to less risky propaganda work. Yet, despite these setbacks, Coward continued to serve his country in any way he could, even if it meant sacrificing his personal happiness. After the war, Coward returned to the stage, but the experiences of his espionage days left an indelible mark on him. His later works, such as The Vortex and Private Lives, reflected a darker, more introspective tone, as if mirroring the complexities and moral ambiguities of the world he had navigated as a spy. Our next star's story involves not just espionage, but also a tale of love and betrayal. A woman whose beauty and intellect made her a perfect spy, yet whose activities remained a well-guarded family secret until her final days. Hedy Lamarr, the inventive spy. Born Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler in 1914 in Vienna, Austria, Hedy Lamarr was a woman ahead of her time. Known for her stunning beauty and her roles in films like Algiers and Samson and Delilah, Lamarr was a Hollywood icon. But what many don't know is that she was also a brilliant inventor and a spy whose contributions significantly impacted the course of World War II. Lamarr's journey into the world of espionage began after her escape from an oppressive marriage to Fritz Mandl, a wealthy Austrian arms dealer with ties to fascist regimes. Fleeing to the United States, she caught the eye of MGM Studios and quickly rose to stardom. But as World War II raged on, Lamarr felt compelled to contribute to the war effort in a meaningful way. Her opportunity came when she met George Antheil, an avant-garde composer and former weapons inspector. Together, they developed a frequency-hopping technology designed to prevent the jamming of radio-controlled torpedoes. This invention was years ahead of its time and was the precursor to modern-day Wi-Fi and Bluetooth technologies. But Lamarr didn't stop there. Using her connections in the entertainment industry and her frequent trips to Europe, she gathered intelligence on Axis powers. Her status as a Hollywood star gave her access to diplomatic parties and military gatherings where she would subtly extract information from unsuspecting officials. This intelligence was passed on to the Allies, providing valuable insights into enemy strategies and technologies. Despite her contributions, Lamar's efforts went largely unrecognized during her lifetime. The U.S. Navy was skeptical of her invention, and it wasn't until the 1960s that her frequency-hopping technology was implemented. Moreover, her espionage activities were so clandestine that they remained a well-guarded secret even to her family. In her later years, Lamar became a recluse, shunning the public eye and living in relative obscurity. She passed away in 2000, but it wasn't until after her death that her contributions to science and espionage were fully acknowledged. She was posthumously inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame, a fitting tribute to a woman whose beauty was matched only by her brilliance. Think this is shocking? Our next star's involvement in espionage was a well-guarded family secret so deeply buried that it took decades to come to light. John Wayne, the American icon, born Marion Robert Morrison in 1907 in Winterset, Iowa, John Wayne was the epitome of American masculinity. With his towering frame, rugged good looks, and a voice that commanded attention, Wayne became a symbol of American values and ideals. Known for his roles in classic films like Stagecoach, The Searchers, and True Grit, he was a Hollywood legend. But behind the scenes, Wayne led a life that was far more complex and controversial, including allegations of involvement in espionage activities during the Cold War. Wayne's connection to the world of espionage began in the early 1950s, a period marked by heightened tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. As a staunch anti-communist, Wayne was a vocal supporter of the House Un-American Activities Committee, a congressional group tasked with investigating alleged disloyalty and subversive activities. His political stance caught the attention of the FBI, who saw in him a potential asset for gathering intelligence. Operating under the codename Duke, a nod to his famous nickname, Wayne was tasked with infiltrating Hollywood circles suspected of communist sympathies. His mission was to gather information on actors, directors, and producers who were believed to be aiding Soviet propaganda efforts. Given his status in the industry, Wayne had access to private gatherings and confidential information, making him an effective undercover operative. However, Wayne's involvement in espionage was fraught with moral dilemmas. While he was committed to fighting communism, he struggled with the ethical implications of spying on his colleagues, many of whom were close friends. This internal conflict took a toll on his personal life, leading to strained relationships and a growing sense of isolation. Despite these challenges, Wayne continued his covert activities until the late 1950s. The intelligence he gathered was instrumental in several high-profile investigations, although the full extent of his contributions remains classified. After retiring from espionage, Wayne focused on his acting career, but the experiences of his secret life left an indelible mark on him, influencing his political views and artistic choices for the rest of his life. But not all stories have a heroic ending. The next star's espionage activities led to a tragic downfall, a tale that serves as a cautionary reminder of the risks involved in the shadowy world of espionage. Charlie Chaplin, the comedic informant, born Charles Spencer Chaplin in 1889 in London, England, Charlie Chaplin was a man who needed no introduction. His iconic character, the Tramp, became a global phenomenon, making Chaplin one of the most famous figures in the history of cinema. Known for his comedic genius in films like The Kid, City Lights, and Modern Times, Chaplin was a master of silent film. But what many don't know is that his life off-screen was filled with political intrigue, including allegations of espionage during the Cold War era. Chaplin's political leanings were always a subject of debate. While he openly criticized fascism and promoted social justice, his views were often interpreted as sympathetic to communism, especially during the McCarthy era. This made him a person of interest for the FBI, who kept a close eye on his activities both in the United States and abroad. In a twist of irony, Chaplin was approached by British intelligence agencies to serve as an informant. Given his international fame and access to high-profile individuals, he was seen as a valuable asset for gathering information on communist activities in Europe. Operating under the codename Limelight, a reference to one of his films, Chaplin was tasked with attending social events and diplomatic functions to collect intelligence. One of his most daring missions involved a trip to the Soviet Union, where he was invited to meet Joseph Stalin. Posing as a goodwill ambassador for the arts, Chaplin used the opportunity to gather information on Soviet military capabilities and political strategies. The intelligence he collected was passed on to British and American agencies, providing valuable insights into the inner workings of the Kremlin. However, Chaplin's involvement in espionage came at a high personal cost. His political activities made him a target for the House Un-American Activities Committee, leading to his eventual exile from the United States. Despite the risks, Chaplin continued his covert operations, even as he faced public scrutiny and personal hardships. Our final star's story is perhaps the most controversial of them all. A woman whose life was shrouded in mystery and whose involvement in espionage activities remains a subject of intense debate to this day. Don't go anywhere. Greta Garbo, the mysterious operative. Born Greta Lovisa Gustafsson in 1905 in Stockholm, Sweden, Greta Garbo was the epitome of enigmatic allure. With her smoldering eyes and aloof demeanor, she captivated audiences in films like Anna Karenina, Grand Hotel, and Camille. But behind that inscrutable facade lay a woman of many layers, including allegations of involvement in espionage during World War II. Garbo's journey into the world of espionage is as mysterious as the woman herself. During the war, she took a hiatus from acting and disappeared from the public eye. Rumors swirled about her whereabouts, but it wasn't until years later that the truth began to emerge. According to declassified documents, Garbo was recruited by British intelligence to serve as a spy, operating under the code name the Swedish Sphinx. Her mission was to infiltrate Nazi social circles and gather information on German military plans. Given her Swedish nationality and her neutral stance, Garbo was able to move freely across Europe, attending parties and social events frequented by high-ranking Nazi officials. Her beauty and charm made her a welcome guest, allowing her to extract valuable intelligence without arousing suspicion. One of her most daring exploits involved a secret meeting with Heinrich Himmler, the Reichsfuhrer of the SS. Posing as a sympathizer to the Nazi cause, Garbo gained his trust and acquired critical information on the V-2 rocket program, which she promptly relayed to British intelligence. This intelligence was instrumental in shaping Allied strategies, potentially saving countless lives. Despite the risks and the moral complexities of her role, Garbo carried out her duties with utmost secrecy. Even her closest friends and family were unaware of her clandestine activities, making her one of the most effective spies of her time. After the war, Garbo returned to her reclusive life, never speaking publicly about her espionage activities. She passed away in 1990, taking her secrets to the grave, leaving us to ponder the depths of her enigmatic life. From the glitz and glamour of Hollywood to the shadowy corridors of international espionage, the lives of these stars were far more complex than what met the eye. Their stories serve as a testament to the intricate tapestry of history where fame, politics, and secrecy intertwine in unexpected ways. If you enjoyed this documentary, check out the next video in this series.